Cold weather got you down? Forget the snow boots and pack your swimsuit. Atlantic City International Airport offers nonstop flights to Cancun. What are you waiting for? Book your flight today by visiting spirit.com.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
and
Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Tuesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Hanging out with you live in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Sixers finally add a new backup big man for Joel Embiid. Of course, you can catch all the details at 97.3 ESPN.com and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We'll discuss the ramifications of the additions in just a bit. State of the Sixers in the NBA after All-Star Weekend. Bryan Toporek from Forbes Sports, NBA writer and the co-host of the NBA podcast, will join us coming up at 6:20 p.m. As always, you can join the conversation. DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app or text in at 609-403-0973. Before we get to the Sixers news about who they signed to be Embiid's new backup potentially, I think that this is not going to be the last move you see the Sixers make. I know Morey promised they were going to make at least the move to sign a guy, but I just get the feeling that, you have a situation where Daryl Morey is not just going to sit on his hands. Hey, I made one move. That's it. There's a possibility they may do more in the buyout market. So keep a close eye. It's 973 ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app. Now, the move they did make today that is interesting is they signed Willie, Cauley, Stein. Now, for those of you out there who are basketball heads, Willie Cauley Stein is definitely a familiar name for you. He's a guy who was a big-time prospect at Kentucky. A lot of people thought he was going to be a very, very good NBA player. His career has kind of fizzled a little bit. Didn't really develop into the player that people hoped when he was drafted back in the 2015 NBA draft. But considering that the Sixers' backup big men were Miles Powell and Charlie Brown and Paul Reed and Paul Millsap, adding Willie Cauley Stein to a 10-day contract makes a lot of sense. Now, he hasn't played much this year. He missed a bunch of time due to personal reasons. And that's why Dallas eventually released him. Now, it seems like whatever the personal reasons going on in his life have been dealt with and resolved, so he's now good to go. But the reason why I think the Willie Cauley Stein move is very interesting is because, to me, it's a sign that the Sixers understand that when they lost Drummond, they lost one of their best rebounders. And this is a team that has struggled to be consistent rebounders all season. Sixers have been among the worst teams in the NBA at rebounding. So, to me, this move is just as much about making sure Joel has a sufficient and quality backup than it does just to make sure that you have another guy who can go grab boards in the absence of Drummond. Like I said before, I think that people have underestimated what Drummond meant for this team in terms of rebounding and being basically the best backup big man for Joel during his entire tenure here. At least getting Willie Cauley Stein gets you the hope of getting a Nerlens Noel-esque kind of player in here in terms of athleticism and defense and rebounding. So now that you get that guy, at least you can kind of put guys into their roles, and you're only giving him a 10-day contract. So what you're doing is you're basically telling him, look, you're auditioning for the role. So it's a win-win by everybody involved. And I think it makes a lot of sense. At the end of the day, you needed someone who was going to be a rim protector and a rebounder for this team. So to me, that's the reason why Willie Cauley Stein makes sense. Now, for the Sixers overall coming out of the All-Star break, as we are days away from their return to the court, the expectation is that James Harden will be making his debut this Friday. Of course, you can hear the game versus the Timberwolves right here on 97.3 ESPN this Friday night. The Sixers currently stand third in the Eastern Conference. So for as underwhelming as their roster has been all year, for as many, for lack of a term, issues they have dealt with all year long, in terms of the people around Joel Embiid's phenomenal play this year has put them in a position to be 2.5 games out of first place in the Eastern Conference. They are also about 4.5 games ahead of the Nets in the standings, the team they traded Ben Simmons to. Now, we don't know all the details when Ben Simmons is going to make his debut for the Brooklyn Nets, but I feel very confident to say that it's looking as of right now that Harden will get on the court before Simmons, which is what I personally assumed was going to happen all along. I never was going to be the person who sat there and said that James Harden was faking the hamstring injury, but maybe he was being a little extra cautious about it because he didn't really want to play in Brooklyn kind of deal. You know what I'm talking about. The person who puts themselves in a situation that makes their predicament a little worse, a little complicated. You get the idea. All right. So I generally think that Harden's going to return this Friday, and then Ben Simmons will probably be back in a week or two. The other thing to keep an eye on the Eastern Conference is that the teams around the Sixers are all in very interesting situations. The Miami Heat, they're on top of the division, have arguably the best defense in the conference. Them and the Cavs have that, notoriety. The Celtics have played great defense for the last month and a half, and Tatum and Brown are playing both at a very high level, and it feels like that Udoka, the head coach of the Celtics, has kind of found his groove coaching this group of players. Milwaukee, they got better defensively, adding Javon Carter in the buyout market, acquiring Serge Ibaka before the deadline. So Milwaukee is ratcheting up the defensive side of the ball as well. Chicago is going to be interesting to see how it all plays out because LaVine is supposed to return soon from his knee injury. Ball is supposed to return from his injury prospectively before the end of the season. So they're getting two of their better players back in the short term. So Chicago's coming for you. And DeRozan, if it wasn't for Joel Embiid, DeRozan would probably be a much hotter MVP type candidate. But because he plays in Chicago on a team with a lot of other great players, and the fact that Joel Embiid is just having this ridiculously incredible season, DeRozan's getting overlooked, especially in the Eastern Conference. The Nets are the team that has to be really concerned about where they are. They're 31-28. Durant doesn't have a timeline yet on when he's returning, not just because of his injury. For those who don't know, Durant was not at the game on Sunday because he had a death in the family. So you have a guy in Kevin Durant that is not returning, as far as I know, anytime soon. Between a death in the family, you might miss some rehab assignments. You might not be available for a couple of weeks. So Ben Simmons might get on the court for the Nets before KD does, which is very problematic because it looks like there's only going to be 8 games for Kyrie to even play the rest of the season because of the vax mandates. Right now, when the Nets return, they have a home game against Boston, a home game against Toronto. Then they're at Toronto. Then they're home against Miami. Then they're home against the Knicks. They're home against Portland. They're home against Utah. They're home against Charlotte and Detroit and Milwaukee again. Houston at the Knicks. Home against the Cavs. Home against Pacers. That's 14 to 15 games that it looks like Kyrie is not going to be available for. So they need Durant and Ben Simmons back on the court as soon as possible, both of them, at least one of them, if they have any hope of avoiding the play-in tournament. And let's be realistic. If the Nets do get into the play-in tournament and have to play a team like the Hornets or the Hawks, they could be in danger. Because in a one-game scenario, anything can happen. And the Hawks have talent, and the Hornets have talent. And for a team like the Nets, for example, if that game is at home in Brooklyn, Kyrie won't be available for that game. And even if it is on the road, if Kyrie and Durant have a bad shooting night, you can't depend on Ben Simmons to go out there and carry the offense. It's going to be problematic for the Nets. So they got to get out of that play-in tournament. They got to get at least to the 6th or 5th seed. Not just because of the fact that they want to avoid the play-in tournament, but that way they have more games on the road than at home in the postseason. And then the hope is maybe by then New York will have lifted their indoor vaccine mandate. And the only reason why there's any expectation that's going to happen is because we already saw Philadelphia do that. The city of Philadelphia no longer requires people to be vaccinated or have a negative test for COVID to be in indoor facilities and everything. So if Philadelphia is doing that, and considering New York has a new mayor installed, it's not unreasonable to think that New York's not far behind. And of course, there is a lot of speculation among people who cover the NBA who are much more well-sourced and well-connected than I am that they think that this is coming. So it's a lot of variables to keep in mind. And as I mentioned, to me, Charlotte's the team that everyone needs to be worried about. Because Charlotte is only around 500 right now because they've had a bunch of guys miss time due to injuries. And that put them on a crazy, crazy losing streak. But when this team is healthy, when this team is all together, well-pieced, between Ball and Bridges and Hayward, Rozier, and they acquired Montrezl Harrell, Kelly Oubre. They got some dudes down there. They can scare somebody in the postseason series. And I think that the Eastern Conference is going to be extremely competitive. And we'll have all the updates and the coverage right here with you on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here in the Matt Black Kia studios on 97.3 ESPN FM here on Game Night. Text came in over at 609-403-0973. Text chimes in and says, when I first saw the breaking news about the trade, my very thought first thought was, why did they include Drummond? Couldn't they have gotten the deal done without him? Honestly, Texter, probably not. I think that Drummond was the consolation prize because, according to all reports, the Nets wanted Maxey or Thibault in the deal, and the Sixers said no to giving up one of their two young players. Thibault obviously has a lot of value as a perimeter defender, and Maxey is an up-and-coming potential star, all-star caliber player in this league. So you had to give up something to get something, and I think that the Nets probably insisted that the Sixers had to give up Drummond. Also, Drummond's on if I remember correctly, I believe Drummond is on an expiring contract. So that can also be used to make the money work. Because remember, Simmons for Harden straight up was not going to work financially. Let me double check what Drummond's contract was. Yeah, he's going to be an expiring contract, $2.4 million. So for Drummond, it's an opportunity for him to show out with the Nets, get more playing time, hit the free agent market at age 29, get a better deal next year. So it's a win-win for everybody involved. And that's why the deal had to be done, because you had to give up something to get something. And giving up Ben Simmons wasn't enough for a variety of reasons. All right, Josh Hennig here hanging out with you. Coming up, we'll talk more NBA with Bryan Toporek from Forbes Sports, NBA writer and the co-host of the NBA podcast right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action.
Oh, big save by Carter Hart.
The Flyers host the St. Louis Blues.
Coverage begins at 3 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
Hey, big guy. Simple credibility approval.
Listen, big guy, try this. Give them more cash for their clunker.
That was my idea.
It's a President's Day sale all month. 0 down, 0.9% financing, 0 payments for 90 days, or $1,000 cash back. At Matt Blatt Kia, you can have it all. Plus, we want to get you out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve. 0.9% APR financing available for up to 60 months on new 2022 Kia Stinger, or get $1,000 cash back. Plus, Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township wants your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Gotta be a Matt Black kid.
Offers with Group Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1516 for 1,000 borrowed. 1,000 off all 22 Stingers. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 3/4/2022. Matt Black Kia, 6211 on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Stop junk sleep before it spirals out of control. Visit Mattress Firm during the President's Day sale. For a limited time, get a king for the price of a queen or a queen for the price of a twin. Save up to $500 and get a free adjustable base with qualifying Sealy purchase. You can't put a price on good sleep, but it's better on sale. Unjunk your sleep. Shop in-store or online at mattressfirm.com today.
Driving happy with Febreze car.
You're driving home when, oh no, you hit the longest red light in town. What's this? You're smiling because your car smells amazing. You just installed a Febreze car vent clip. Ha ha! 5 weeks ago, with up to 40 days of consistent Febreze scent, those lights can stay red for as long as they'd like.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
2021 is officially in the rearview mirror, and we are well into the winter of 2022. Hi, Tom McAllister from McAllister the Service Company. People often ask me what is the secret to the incredible success of the McAllister organization. The answer is simple. It's our core values of honesty, integrity, and our 100% satisfaction guarantee. For over 145 years, our clients call us not because we service or install a particular make or brand of equipment. They call us because they are trusting their home comfort to the experts at McAllister. So if you put off upgrading your air conditioning system last year, now is the perfect time to take advantage of discounts and rebates offered by the state and the utilities. Remember, after January 23rd, there are only 8 Saturdays left until spring. Talk to the experts at McAllister, 609-927-4122, or at mcservice.com for all your heating and air conditioning needs. McAllister cannot control the weather, but we can control your comfort.
TracFone Wireless knows that everyone needs an endless amount of data. So why pay for it? Get unlimited talk to text with 8 gigabytes of high-speed data for just $40 a month, with unlimited carryover data so you keep what you don't use on America's largest and most dependable networks with nationwide 5G. TracFone Wireless, now you're in control. Available at major retailers. 5G compatible device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents
And Doug.
Check it out, Limu, a roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see a fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Look, an emu wearing sunglasses.
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
With GMF financing excludes Corvette.
Now till the end of the month, Bennett Chevrolet is paying a minimum $8,000 for any trade. No joke. That's $8,000 minimum for any rundown old piece of junk you can get to our lot. Don't let that clunker just sit around. Have it towed to Bennett and get at least $8,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. But this is a special offer this month only. Got a good trade? Bring it in. Because if we're paying a minimum $8,000 for junk, imagine how much more Bennett will pay for a good quality trade. And we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy ours. Plus, you won't find Bennett selling new cars over factory window sticker like other dealers. And if you're stuck in a lease, we can get you out early. Every make and model. No obligation, no pressure. Because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Now till the end of the month, Bennett Chevrolet is paying a minimum $8,000 for any trade. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig hanging out with you. We'll talk more Sixers and NBA in just a moment. Game Night being brought to you by the AC Airport. Plan your spring break getaway now. Create memories to last a lifetime. Start with nonstop flights from Atlantic City to Cancun, San Juan, and Miami. Book your low-cost flight at spirit.com. We are just days away from potentially James Harden making his debut with the 76ers. Although at this rate, I think Harden will probably be back before Simmons and Durant, the way things are looking right now. So, again, that more NBA talk. He is the co-host of the NBA podcast. Also, he is a writer for Forbes Sports covering the NBA. He is Bryan Toporek, and he joins us right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Bryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well overall. And I want to start with what I just said. You know, between Durant missing Sunday due to a death in the family, from what I understand, and then him being completely non-committal about when he's returning from his injury, I'm starting to get the feeling that Harden will be back before Durant, and Ben Simmons might even be on the court before Durant. And that's a bad sign, because if I'm doing my math right, it looks like there's going to be 14 games coming up for the Nets without Kyrie being able to play. And no offense, but if Ben Simmons is the guy you're relying on for you got some problems, man.
You're not a believer in Goran Dragic saving the Nets season? Because, Sean Marks is giving a press conference right now, apparently, and he said it's going to be tough for Durant or Simmons to play in the next 3 or 4 days, whereas Adrian Wojnarowski came out this weekend and said, sounds like all systems go for Harden on Friday. So I think you're right on. I think we're going to see James Harden debut this week. And, I think KD and Simmons, I think they said it's going to be like weeks, not months for both of those guys, but it sounds like this weekend may be a little ambitious.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for Ben Simmons is because of the fact he has to get into game shape. Working out on your own is not the same as being an NBA game playing shape. Those are two different things, as we know. So to me, I completely understand the Simmons thing, but the Durant thing concerns me, Bryan, because if I'm the Nets, I'm looking around, I'm like, I'm right now potentially playing in the play-in tournament. And first of all, I don't want to be at home because I might not have Kyrie for the play-in game. And on top of that, if I end up playing a healthy Charlotte team, I might get bushwhacked in a shootout. Because if they're healthy by the time they come around, that Charlotte team could really scare some people.
Yeah, and you don't want to play Toronto because Kyrie can't go there either. So
right.
I think optimally they will finish at the top 6. But, right now they're 2.5 games behind Boston, who has been surging as of late. As you mentioned, I think the stat I've seen thrown out there is that Kyrie can only play in 8 more regular season games if New York City does not adjust the vaccine mandate. And they did just sign Goran Dragic. I was joking a little bit, but he will help. I don't think he's going to swing the title race, but
right,
just having another point guard who can play in home games if New York City does not change the mandate is going to be a big lift for them. I think honestly, there are so many good teams in the East this year. Whoever finishes in the 7 or 8 spot, it's like, I don't want to say they're a bad team or that they can't pull off a first round upset. It's just like there are too many good teams 4 guaranteed playoff spots. So yeah, Brooklyn would love to avoid the play-in, but if they do fall in that mix, they're not like the Lakers where it's like, oh, they actually might lose in this thing. If they're in the play-in, I'm pretty sure they're going to make the playoffs either way.
When you think about also the Eastern Conference, you look at the teams that are starting to load up on, you mentioned Dragic going to the Nets, Javon Carter going to the Bucks, the Miami Heat, the Bulls, they're still at the top of the conference. I'm looking around the Eastern Conference. I don't even know who the favorite is, Brian. I really don't, because I feel like you can make an argument for about 7-8 teams. And, I wouldn't have said that a few months ago. You would have asked me a few months ago. I've been like, there's maybe 2 or 3 teams, right? And now it's like, well, Boston found their groove finally. The Cavs are winning despite everything going on in their world. If Ibaka is even 80% of who he is when he comes back, I mean, Milwaukee's going to be scary as anything. Mm-hmm. You look at Miami. I mean, Miami, they believe they're better than they probably really are, which is dangerous. And then the Bulls, the Bulls got the dark horse MVP candidate. Brian, if it wasn't for Joel Embiid, we might be talking about maybe DeRozan should be MVP this year.
Yeah, I mean, we just recorded a podcast last week where once the dust settled from the trade deadline, we had a week to kind of digest everything. We were trying to take a step back and ask who is the favorite in the East, because all season the betting markets have been favoring the Nets. And then once this trade happened, they're still in that title mix in the I think they are still technically the favorites in the East, but the Bucks are right behind them. The Sixers are right behind them. The Heat aren't far away either. I think if Brook Lopez comes back healthy, which is no sure thing, he's played 1 game and then underwent back surgery, and that's the back surgery and 7-footer are just words you never want to hear in the same sentence. Right. If he's back healthy, I think the Bucks are still the team to beat in the East. But we saw, the game right before the All-Star break that the Sixers played against them, they have no answer for Joel Embiid without Brook Lopez. And that's not to say that Lopez will neutralize Joel Embiid. No one has an answer for Joel Embiid this season, but he is at least a bigger body. Bobby Portis, who has been playing very well this year and played well in the playoffs last year, just got absolutely demolished. So, I think a lot of this is going to come down to specific matchups. I think each one of these teams matches up pretty well with certain teams and then could have some trouble with some other ones. So, if the Sixers get like the Cavs in the first round versus Brooklyn or Boston or Toronto, I think it's 2 very different stories in terms of, are they likely to advance to the second round?
Brian, when you also think about the matchups, you mentioned no one, for example, no one's stopping Embiid, but is there a team that is in a position to maybe force the game into Embiid's hands at the end? Because right now you expect, hey, 10 seconds on the clock, game tied. Obviously, Embiid doesn't have to take the final shot right now. It'd be Harden theoretically. Well, is there a team that maybe can force Harden out of being the option and force the ball back to Embiid to make a difficult shot?
Yeah, I think Miami, Boston, and Toronto all have the personnel defensively to cause the Sixers some major problems, just because they all have multiple solid guard/wing defenders that could, give double team Harden if they need to. And the question is, if they do that, are they single covering Embiid, and who is guarding Embiid? Like Bam Adebayo, I think, can potentially hold his own, especially in a late game, late clock situation where things are going to feel frantic and rushed. Robert Williams in Boston's been playing very well. Toronto is just like nothing but 6'7", 6'8" guys who are just all interchangeable defensively. So I think those 3 teams are the ones that would worry me most from a defensive/schematic standpoint. Chicago, it's just so hard to say because, Lonzo Ball is out, Alex Caruso is out. I want to see those guys back before the end of the regular season and see what they look like, because they are really the keys to that defense. But honestly, there are so many teams out there that there is not going to be an easy first round matchup, barring just an absolute surprise in the play-in tournament.
Bryan Toporek joining us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at Toporek. Check out the NBA podcast and, of course, his work over at Forbes Sports. The Sixers today, I know you want to talk about this. Big news. They signed Willie Cauley Stein. Now, we should know it's a 10-day contract. So it's basically like, hey, come in and try out and see if you're really the guy that we hope you can be. My only concern is, from what I understand, he hasn't played since November? So I don't know what condition he's in or not in. I like the idea because I think that he is the kind of defensive player and type of rebounder they need. I just don't know what type of Willie Cauley Stein we're getting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of joking here because realistically, anyone the Sixers sign at this point, whether it's on a 10-day or to fill that last roster spot, Daryl Morey has heavily hinted in Harden's press conference and a couple podcast appearances recently, it's going to be a big man, whether it's Willie Cauley Stein, they convert him to a full contract, or someone else. They want a more reliable big now that Andre Drummond is in Brooklyn. If that guy's playing more than 10 or 15 minutes a night in the playoffs, the Sixers are screwed regardless, because that means Joel Embiid got hurt and they're not going anywhere. So, for all of the focus on this, and it's understandable because we're scarred by that Toronto series from a couple years ago where, they were a plus 90 with Embiid on the court and like a minus 109 throughout the series with him off the floor. Like they do need someone dependable. We'll see if Cauley Stein could be that guy. I think he is the type of big man with, all of this concern about, James Harden really needs a pick and roll guy. Like Willie Cauley Stein is not going to post up, or he should not be posting up. All you're going to ask him to do is rebound, play defense, catch lobs on offense. And I think, he could be that type of a threat with Harden, where Harden makes him look better, much like Chris Paul is doing or was doing before his injury with Bismack Biyombo in Phoenix this year. So, if they didn't have James Harden, I'd be less excited about this move because I don't think they would have the personnel to really get the most out of him. I'm at least interested to see, as you said, it's only a 10-day, so there's no downside here. Like, try him out for a couple games, see if it works, and if not, move on to the next one.
Yeah, the other thing is that, let's be realistic, and this is nothing against Paul Reed or Bassey or any of those guys, but, Willie Cauley Stein comes from pedigree, basically. I mean, this dude is a top pick. People were saying he was going to be the next Nerlens Noel, maybe better. And he's had an inconsistent career, but he has talent. So even if he can show you flashes in, as you mentioned, 10, 15 minutes, that's well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you're not going to ask much out of him. If you are, then we've got bigger problems that we need to worry about. And a lot as well will come down to, how Doc Rivers staggers his rotations. Is he, if there's a single minute where all four of Joel, Tyrese, James Harden, and Tobias are off the floor at the same time, then again, like Willie Cauley Stein will not be the big problem that we're focusing on here. I would think, I would personally, if I were running the team, like I would try to have minutes where Embiid, you can like center the offense around him. And when he's off the floor, James Harden's back on, you pair him with Willie Cauley Stein, because I think that's the pairing that makes the most sense to maximize Cauley Stein. And then James Harden can, have 10, 15 minutes a game to do his thing without Embiid, and they play together for 24 minutes and everyone's doing great. So we'll see. I mean, it's a lot just comes down to like how Doc manages the Joel only minutes, the James only minutes, how often they play together. Do they, does he cluster those guys together, and Tyrese and Tobias are the other pairing, in which case Cauley Stein might not be as effective. So I'm guessing it will be Joel and Tyrese are one pairing, Harden and Tobias are the other one.
I want to ask you about the All-Star weekend, Bryan, because, I kind of blew up about it yesterday, so I got to ask you about it. Okay. First of all, I thought that the dunk contest was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. I think the 3-point shooting competition is just turning into an excuse for random fill-in-the-blank person to make a proclamation of how great they are at shooting for one moment in time. But the All-Star game itself was actually fun to watch. Yes. I thought the game itself, actually was really good, which is the inverse of what usually happens. Usually Saturday night is the entertaining night, and Sunday's the night that you forget about everything.
Yeah, I mean, when Steph Curry is hitting every single three he's throwing up, it's like at a certain point you just have to throw your hands up and be like, all right, this guy is, all right, congratulations, Karl Anthony Towns. You won the 3-point contest, but you are not the best shooter at All-Star Weekend. Stephen Curry, just an unbelievable performance from him. Joel was fantastic for Team Durant. It's always just great to see him. It's like he and Giannis take that game so much more seriously than a lot of the other guys.
Yeah.
And it's just always so fun to see. Like Joel was trying to play, especially the fourth quarter, like it was an actual game. And, seeing his team run through him when you've got some of the best players in the NBA on the floor at the same time does just underscore the type of talent he is and the type of season that he's been having. But I'm with you, man. I've got an almost 1-year-old at home, so I'm going to sleep by 11:30 most nights. When the dunk contest is going on at 11 p.m. and Jalen Green has botched his 8th straight dunk attempt, I'm just like, come on, man. Like, I'm staying up for this. And I don't know what the solution is other than, somehow figure out to recruit like bigger name stars like John Morant and Zach LaVine threw down better dunks during the All-Star game than anything we saw during the dunk contest. It's like, these guys are here. Just, I don't care. Throw like $5 million at their favorite charity, whatever it takes. Just don't make me sit through, with all due respect to Juan Toscano-Anderson.
No respect to Juan Toscano-Anderson. He's the 4th best dunker on his team. You could have had Kuminga, you could have Gary Payton Jr., you could have had Wiggins out there, but no, we got Juan Toscano-Anderson. That in and of itself is an embarrassment and an insult to this league.
Yeah, it was not the finest moment, but I will say it sounds like people who in Cleveland had a great time there. The All-Star game was great. So, and the 75th anniversary ceremony at halftime was just amazing to see.
It was really long though.
It was. Well, like, what do you want to do? I mean, you can't rush to be like, oh, well, we're just going to skip over 25.
They didn't have to have that stupid monologue in between each position group.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
That
was,
true. I mean, and it's like, hey, here's Usher to talk to us about guards. Like, what?
Yeah, I know the band. Just focus on the band. They were having a great time. Just
the band was good. The band played music. I don't care about the other stuff.
Just wait till the 100th anniversary.
Well, we know MB will be on the 100th anniversary team. It's so all right. 2 things before we get to the anniversary team. 1, you asked about the dunk contest. So I'm merging 2 ideas together. So Mike Gill's idea is that the guys have to replicate dunks from the past. They can't make up their own dunks moving forward. So, like, it'd be like, they spin a wheel, and it's like, all right, you got to do the Jordan foul line dunk, or you got to do the Vince Carter 360 dunk, and then you get graded on, how well you did it. So that was Mike Gill's idea.
I like that. I will say, and this speaks to like a larger conversation about just NBA media in general, like, having whoever they had on the TNT broadcast, I think it was like Dwayne Wade and Reggie Miller, like the entire time they're just crapping on the guys who are doing.
Oh, it was hilarious though.
But like, it is just a larger NBA media problem of like, let's try to get excited about. Like, I know Saturday was not something to even be able to really feign excitement about, but then like, when Allen Iverson was commentating during the All-Star game on Sunday,
that was great.
Yeah, he was just praising the young guys. It's just something that we don't get to see that often. So I worry if we do I like the idea of the wheel. I worry if it's just like recreate old moments, it's going to turn into, like, oh, well, when I saw MJ do it, like, that's 10 times better than this dunk. This should be a 6.
But it's the idea that how many more dunks are there?
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the problem.
Listen, you can come up with 30 of the greatest dunks of all time in dunk history, from the 70s to the Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon showdown. Yeah. So like that's what, 40 years of dunking. Like, you can find like 30 great dunks and you'll be fine. Now, my idea is here's what you do. You go to whoever the sponsor is, Sprite or whoever, and be like, look, Let's be realistic. You want your name on this, you got to put your extra money up. It's going into these guys' pockets. So the winner gets $2 million and his charity gets $2 million.
Yeah, I like that. That go, with this whole like in-season tournament idea too. Like I think
the in-season tournament thing, to me, I don't understand Silver's fascination with it.
Yeah.
I feel like Silver is trying so hard to make fetch a thing, like they were trying to do in Mean Girls, and they had to tell her fetch is not a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing. Like Adam Silver is trying to make this tournament a thing when nobody wants it to be a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it comes down to like the compensation or like how do you incentivize these guys, and it's the same thing with the dunk contest. Like, how do you incentivize?
Well, the reason why I also bring up Bryan, the reason why is, do you know the story? What's going on at the University of Miami?
I don't think so.
Okay, so there's this like super rich dude in South Florida named John Ruiz. He's literally paying these kids millions of dollars in the NIL money just to go to Miami. He's millions, not like, $10,000. Like he's paying these kids millions of dollars to the point where now he's suing the University of Florida and the United States government to allow high schoolers to get NIL deals because he wants to pay this one baseball player to go to a specific high school. So this dude is just throwing $10 million, $20 million everywhere. And I'm just thinking, if this dude, this random nobody, I never knew who he was before I read this story, is just chucking millions of dollars out there. You're telling me that some big corporation can't just be like, yeah, I'll pay John Morant $2 million to dunk.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the NBA. Like you're an $8-9 billion a year league. Like you can't find $5 billion under the couch cushion to actually make this. I mean, it's supposed to be one of your marquee weekends. And, like if I don't know what ratings are or what they were for this past weekend, but the general sentiment coming out of All-Star Saturday was like, why did we just watch? What did we just watch for the last 3 hours? Why couldn't we have spent our time doing literally anything else?
Yeah, exactly. Although we do know the Olympics had the worst viewership ratings they've ever had. So I'm assuming that maybe more people watch Saturday than watch the Olympics.
It's a low bar.
Yeah, it's a low bar, but I feel like I'm willing to go with that. Bryan, before I let you go, you mentioned the 75th anniversary team, which actually is 76 people, which that story in of itself is actually hilarious. We had a conversation earlier today because I heard it on a podcast, and they were talking about that they don't understand why some people are on this team when people who could have been on the team, like, Dwight Howard or some of these other guys, are not on the team. And I saw SI came out with a list. It was like Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Dwight Howard, a few other guys, no Chris Webber on the team. And it's like, at some point, doesn't the NBA need to realize, Bryan, that Bob Cousy actually was not one of the greatest of all time players?
I think it's just going to come down to like, I know this argument comes up a lot. Like anytime a picture of one of the guys from the 50s or the 60s comes out, it's like telling me John Morant isn't better than this, skinny white dude. And it's like, now, but he has the benefit of 50 years of athletic advancements. It's like it's hard to compare between generations. So there are certain guys. Wilt would have been great in any generation. Kareem would have been great in any generation. But it's hard to compare some of these other guys. You just have to look at what they did during their time. And hopefully, the 100-year team opens some doors for a lot of the other younger guys. Because I agree, like Dwight Howard should have been in the top 75. Like if you look at just what he did, especially in his prime, there's no question. I think
if Bill Walton gets on the list, Dwight Howard has to be on the list. Dwight Howard did more for longer than Walton did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like back-to-back defensive player of the year. Now he has the ring to go along with it from the Lakers. Like he has done one of the most difficult things for a former superstar to do is just transitioning from star to role player and accepting it. It was bumpy there for a couple of years, but he has accomplished it now. So, it always is like, well, is Dwight Howard even a Hall of Famer? Like, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Of course he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. So I hope voters can put aside whatever personal biases they have against Dwight and get him on the 100-year list at least.
Yeah, I purposely bring up Bob Cousy. I think it was Zach Harper I heard break this down. So I looked this up myself. Bob Cousy, for his career, shot 37.5% from the field in the regular season, 34% from the field in the postseason. Like in an era full of layups and set shots, if you're barely over 33% as a shooter, maybe you really weren't that great, Bryan.
Yeah, I just looked him up. So he led the league 8 straight years in assists. So again, like,
yeah, in a league where there are 8 teams?
Right. That's the thing. Like, drop Bob Cousy into the NBA now, probably isn't going to make the top 75 list, but a 6-time champion, 8-time assist champ, 12-time All NBA.
Yeah, well, he also
MVP.
averaged 2.4 fouls per game. James Harden could do that in his sleep. Okay, I mean, let's be realistic.
Yeah, that's the first 4 minutes of the game. Yeah.
I just listen. I'm with you. I believe that there's a lot of players who, if you gave them today's modern medicine and all the advancements that we have in today's world, like, how many more points would George Gervin have scored if there was a 3-point shot his entire career?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that go into this. I just feel like some of these guys were hanging on for dear life to nostalgia, and we're not being honest. Like ESPN ranked all 75 players, actually was 76. And they had John Stockton ahead of Jason Kidd and some of these other guys. And I'm just like, it's not that John Stockton was better than these guys. It's that people have this emotional or psychological attachment to these guys to be better than they really were.
Yeah. And I bet if they re-rank John Stockton now, if personal biases kept Dwight Howard off, I'm guessing John Stockton would be a little bit lower as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking through the list today. We were talking about it. I'm like, why are some of these guys so low? Like, Drexler and Gervin are in the 50s on the ranking list.
Oh,
like,
wow.
It's just like, and the explanation for it was, so analytics based. And that's where we all get in trouble, because now we're picking and choosing what numbers have value and don't. And that's when we get in trouble. And really the measure, Bryan, should be, how were you compared to your competition? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what anyone says. You mentioned Wilt. Wilt was such a freak. It was just different. But no offense, Bill Russell is not a top 10 player all time. I'm sorry. He's a great champion. He's a great winner. He's a great rebounder and defensive player. But he wasn't. You can, like, to me, Olajuwon's better than Russell.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, I'm not going to pretend that I've seen every Bob Cousy game. He was done playing, 25 some years before I was even born. So, like, I'm not qualified to compare.
You're not breaking down the Zipruder film of Bob Cousy dribbling around the court.
Can't say I spent a ton of time watching, Bob Cousy Spain pick and rolls here, but but how many people are, especially the people who are, writing about these guys now or like ranking these guys now, how many of them have seen all of the Bob Cousy or like some of these older guys? Like, this is where it gets so hard to rank between generations. And I think it's, some of the cool things about this team is that they did draw upon voters from, all backgrounds and people who had seen some of these guys. And, it's one of the cool things about the NBA, but just all sports, like being able to reflect back on the past generations and like get to have an appreciation of their greatness at the time, even if you're like, well, this guy now would have no chance in the NBA today.
All right, before I let you go, really quick, Bryan, was there an entrance that was your favorite during that whole ceremony? Like, did you like the Tim Duncan having the look on his face like, am I done yet? During his introduction, did you like Rodman running out there like he was a politician running for office? Did you like the story how Jordan had to fly in last second to get there just in time? Like, what was your favorite entrance or story or element of that thing? Because I feel like almost every dude had something. Like James Worthy did the Black Panther salute. Nobody said anything.
I think my two favorites were, the video has since like been going on Twitter, but when LeBron daps up, or Ray Allen dapped up LeBron, KG is standing right next to him. and just has like an absolute death glare on his face. So the bad feelings are still there. Although I did see Pierce, KG, and Allen took a picture together, so that's good. I hope they do mend fences at some point. And then MJ, like, I don't know if this was planned or not, but as they're cutting away, going to commercial, it looked like MJ was alone in the inner circle, which just felt like such a perfect metaphor for the NBA. But also, was he supposed to be there, or did he just like decide to? I'm going to be on a pedestal by myself.
Well, Michelle Beadle's theory from The Athletic was in her podcast. She said that she thinks Jordan walked to the middle on purpose to, be like, I'm Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, look, even the reaction from the crowd, like LeBron James, hometown guy, wins their first championship. Right. I still think Jordan got a louder ovation than LeBron did.
Well, the funny part was how many people were booing Steph during the game. It was like, wow, these people hold a grudge, man. Yeah. And I thought Philly fans were bad.
I know. Well, to be fair, I don't blame him. It could be 4-time champions if not for him.
Bryan, always appreciate the time and the conversation. Folks, check out the NBA podcast. The newest episode dropped. I think it was this morning it dropped. At least that's when it alerted me to download it. So, and of course, Bryan at Twitter, at Toporek. Check out his work over with Forbes Sports. He joined us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Bryan, appreciate the time, my friend.
Of course, always, anytime.
We'll wrap up the show coming up the other side right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City.
It's Sixers basketball Friday night on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Here's a beat, turns, fades, fires, good, and a foul. That's incredible. Whoa, what a play by Embiid.
The Sixers are in Minnesota to face the T-Wolves. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
It's Truck Month, all month at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan. New trucks arriving every day and all month. Just because you don't see it on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow. $5,000 off Titans, or lease the all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier S 4x4 King Cab. Just $279 per month with zero security deposit. Plus, AJ, the trade man, needs more trades. Get more for your trade and drive home a brand new Nissan with zero down and pay 0% interest on every new Nissan in stock. And drive away with peace of mind, because only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle 36-month, 10,000-mile per year lease plus tax tag and $479 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 3/6/2022. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
A Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Who have we all had a little trouble social distancing from? Here's a clue. About 6 feet tall, has handles, and is cold inside. That's right, our refrigerators. And our waistlines have suffered. However, Skechers would like to help you get back on track with our incredible Go Walk footwear, because once you put on Skechers Go Walks, they're so comfortable you'll be inspired to get out there and start walking. Skechers is the comfort technology company, and Go Walks are fully loaded with all the comfort and performance innovations you need. They're incredibly lightweight and breathable with features like air-cooled Gogomat insoles and bouncy foam bottoms for extra cushioning. And Go Walk footwear come in all the fits you love, like stretch fit, wide fit, relaxed fit, and arch fit with podiatrist certified arch support. Plus, you'll look great with so many stylish options to choose from, including easy slip-ons and comfy lace-ups. And they're even machine washable. It's time you distance yourself from that fridge. Get out there and start go walking. Find the #1 walking footwear in the world, Skechers Go Walk, for men and women at Skechers.com, a Skechers store, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Research shows people remember radio ads that remind them of the past. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need, here's an ad that'll really take you back.
Back in my day, I heard a voice from the radio say, Liberty Mutual customizes my home insurance so I only pay for what I need. I'm getting on in years now, but heavens to Betsy, there are some things an old fella like me just never forgets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
My stomach.
Don't worry, I've got you covered.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
What's that?
It's Pepto-Bismol Chews.
Pepto-Bismol's in a chew?
Yeah, they taste great and provide fast relief. And you can always have Pepto-Bismol handy.
Ooh, let me try it.
Try Pepto-Bismol Chews for fast relief.
Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
How do you make the most of your land? If you ask the Wrens, who run with us on a John Deere mower, they tell you,
I mow first, then I do all the trimming.
But the Hubbards, who work behind the wheel of a John Deere compact tractor, would say,
if it's something you want, just go after it and try it.
Then there's the Mosers, who may mention from the seat of their John Deere Gator UTV.
It can't be all work out play.
There are millions of ways to make the most of your land. Learn how to make the most of yours at Deere.com. Nothing runs like a Deere.
It's Tango Day, everybody. Follow after me and step and bet and slide and dip. That's tango.
Why is Ice-T leading our tango class?
It's probably the heart-shaped Honey Nut Cheerios. He found out they can help lower cholesterol. Now he's having fun taking care of his heart in all sorts of new ways.
Let's see those hips move, people.
Hurry and get your heart-shaped Cheerios. They're only here for a limited time.
High prices don't get you a great network. A great network gets you a great network. It's why Total Wireless runs on the largest, most dependable network with nationwide 5G. And now our totally unlimited plan is just $50 a month for talk, text, and high-speed data that never run out. Get unlimited laughing, scrolling, unlimited everything. Total Wireless. Do amazing. Available at authorized dealers. Capable device and SIM required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. Total Wireless reserves the right to review your account after 60 gigs. Terms and conditions at totalwireless.com/terms.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, wrapping up the show. Went a little long with Bryan Toporek there, but the conversation was just too good. Too much fun to be had. I mean, you know, when you have these lists, when you have these events, when you have these moments, what's the point of having them if you don't talk about them, right? I will not be on the air tomorrow. I am taking a personal day off, so I will be back on Thursday's Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. So Mike Gill will be on from 2 to 6 tomorrow. We have college basketball tomorrow night starting at 6:30 p.m. And I'll be back on Thursday for the Mike Gill Show with the Sports Bash with Mike Gill from 2 to 6, producing that. And then I'll be back for Game Night on Thursday. Would hit me up at Josh Hennig on Twitter. Have a great night, everybody. Flyers hockey next, right here with Tim Saunders, Steve Coates on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app.